Science Journal for Kids and Teens presents Why Are Flights Getting Bumpier? Adapted from the original peer-reviewed paper in the journal Geophysical Research Letters, published on June 8, 2023. Research conducted by Mark Prosser, Paul Williams, Graham Marlton, and Giles Harrison from the Department of Meteorology at the University of Reading in the UK and the UK Meteorological Office. See the accompanying PDF for more details. Read by Miranda Wilson. Abstract. Have you ever ridden on an airplane? If so, was there a moment when it suddenly started to shake? That unpleasant and sometimes scary shaking is called turbulence. If there is no storm or even clouds, it can seem to come out of nowhere. We wanted to find out whether clear air turbulence has increased over the past 40 years. We analyzed data from 1979 to 2020 and found a big increase over the mid-latitudes. The skies that most planes fly through are bumpier now than 4 decades ago. In fact, over the North Atlantic, severe turbulence increased by 55%. Our findings are important because they show that we are already seeing the impacts of climate change in unexpected ways. Introduction. As your seat begins to shake, the pilot announces, "We are experiencing some turbulence. Please stay in your seat with your seatbelts fastened." But what causes this bumpy ride? Turbulence can strike when a plane flies through sections of air of changing direction and speed. Pilots know that mountain ranges and storms create turbulence, so they can usually try to avoid it. However, another type of turbulence, called clear air turbulence, is invisible and difficult to predict. Turbulence isn't just annoying. Over time, airplanes get worn down or damaged by turbulence. Sometimes turbulence can even cause injuries to people on flights. This happens when loose objects move around or when a person bumps against something inside the plane. Airplane damage, hospital fees, and related costs add up to around $200 million every year in the US alone. Maybe you've heard about heat waves, droughts, and other extreme weather events happening more often. This is because the Earth's climate is changing. As people burn fossil fuels for energy, more carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide and other gases trap the sun's heat and cause the Earth to warm up. This changes our weather patterns. Here in Figure 1, you can see burning fossil fuels releases gases that trap heat in the atmosphere. This causes the average global surface temperature to increase and the climate to change. In the diagram, you can see producers of gases like cars, houses, and factories, as well as arrows showing where solar radiation is directed. Previous studies have predicted that clear air turbulence is likely to get worse over time because of climate change. We wanted to find out if this is already happening. Understanding how clear air turbulence has already changed can help us predict and avoid it in the future. Methods. We looked at a global data set gathered from many sources, including satellites, weather balloons, and planes. It had data about wind speed and air temperature from January 1979 to December 2020. The data came from the troposphere and stratosphere, the layers of the atmosphere closest to the Earth. We focused our attention on data from the height where planes spend most of their time flying. We used 21 different calculation methods to relate wind speed and temperature to turbulence. We averaged these together for each location on the globe in each season and year. If the average was very high, it indicated that the location was turbulent at that time. We then used simple statistics to look at how the probability of clear air turbulence changed over the 42 years. Results. Our research showed that clear air turbulence increased significantly over the mid-latitudes from 1979 to 2020. We also found some interesting trends. The Northern Hemisphere has almost twice as much turbulence as the Southern Hemisphere. Increases in clear air turbulence were highest over the North Atlantic and the USA. In the North Atlantic, there were 26 more hours of moderately strong turbulence in the year 2020 than in the year 1979, which is an increase of 37%. The USA had 19 more hours of moderately strong turbulence in this period, an increase of 29%. Areas over mountains have a higher probability of turbulence. That matches what we know about other types of turbulence. And autumn and winter have more clear air turbulence than spring and summer. Here in Figure 2, you can see the probability of moderately strong clear air turbulence over the USA from 1979 to 2020. What does it mean when clear air turbulence is moderately strong? That's when loose objects move around and people have a hard time getting around inside the cabin. Each cross in the graph represents the yearly average probability using 21 calculation methods. The solid line shows how clear air turbulence changed over time. On the x-axis, you can see years from 1979 to 2020, and on the y-axis, you can see the probability of turbulence occurring as a percentage. Looking at the graph, which year showed the highest probability of clear air turbulence? Which had the lowest? Discussion. Our study shows that clear air turbulence has increased in the past 4 decades over the mid-latitudes. Some of the globe's busiest flight paths are in the fastest changing areas. This has serious consequences for airlines. Every additional minute spent in turbulence causes extra wear on the plane. It also increases the chances of injuries to passengers and flight attendants during a flight. Other studies from our research group have used computer models to create forecasts about increasing clear air turbulence for the period 2050 to 2080. Our results indicate that these increases have already begun. We can continue to improve our understanding of clear air turbulence by using the most accurate data available. With better weather monitoring technology, we can understand and model clear air turbulence, and pilots can try to avoid it. Conclusion. The increase in clear air turbulence should not make you afraid to fly. Although it's uncomfortable when it does occur, the chances of injury are still very low. Here are some ideas to help you stay safe when traveling by plane. Keep your seatbelt fastened whenever you're seated. Avoid having too many loose items out. Keep anything you aren't currently using in your bag, and keep your bag under the seat in front of you or up in the overhead compartment. And listen to announcements from the pilot or flight attendants and follow their instructions. Thank you for listening to this recording. Visit our website, ScienceJournalForKids.org, for more free science teaching resources.